Chapter 26 A Challenge Met. Silverside watched the city as she watched it every night, since Maltface was a crescent horn. The moon was entirely gone now, waiting for the old mother to birth it once more in its endless cycle. Still the god being ignored her, but Silverside came every night and renewed her challenge. The god being would come to her. It must. At least some of what it said had been true. The city had changed. It no longer pursued the kin when they attacked. Only a few nights past, Lifecrier led the pack down to kill. Though the hunters had come to protect the worker walking stones, they had not followed the pack when the kin retreated. When the youngling Slowpaw had been caught straggling as usual, and one of the hunters had shot him, Silverside had been certain that Slowpaw was dead, but the hunters came after the body, and after Silverside disabled them, she found that they had only made Slowpaw sleep. She had been certain that the hunters would follow her for revenge, and had been ready to lead them away from Packham again. But the rest of the hunters remained in the city. The god being, whose name was Derek as she knew from listening to the city's void tongue, had ordered it so. What kind of creature would stay hidden in its cave for so long? How could it hunt there when all the game had been driven elsewhere? The god being was flesh like the kin, it must eat, which meant that it would come out. Most strangely of all, Silverside could feel the urge in her to meet this god being again. The remembrance of it stirred odd thoughts in her mind. She felt a pull, a yearning. It has knowledge, it has intelligence. It is a troll-maker far superior to any of the kin. I have heard the city say that the one walking stone was built by this Derek. There were moments when she did not want to fight it at all. But the challenge was demanded by the old mother's commands inside her. Above all else she could let no harm come to the kin, and the city harmed kin simply by its existence. She must control the city as she controlled the kin, and the god being prevented that. That meant it must be challenged. If it refused her that privilege, it must die. The edge of the city was well defined, like the boundaries of a cooled lava flow. Derek stepped from a hard level walkway, and with the next step he was on grass. Outside. He suddenly, foolishly, felt unprotected. That's silly, he told himself. Mandelbrot's alongside you, and Alpha's monitoring the whole thing through witness robots. There are half a dozen hunters waiting back in the city. They'll get you in seconds if anything happens. You're as safe as you can be. Besides, you're the one who insisted that the 3 laws protected you from the rogue. He suddenly didn't feel very confident at all. A low rumbling came from his right. Derek turned. The rogue was there. It crouched. 50 meters upslope where a stand of trees had been cleared by workers from the city. Perched atop one of the fallen logs and in wolf shape, the rogue looked bigger than Derek had remembered. Its claws were displayed, its mouth slightly open to reveal the metal teeth set there. It reared up on its back legs as Derek turned to it, standing perhaps a half-meter taller than Derek itself. Mandelbrot had come alongside Derek without prompting. The implicit threat in the rogue's pose forced the robot to stay close enough to intervene. It's a robot. It follows the laws. Derek took a deep breath, motioning Mandelbrot back. I've come to talk to you, he said to the rogue. It growled and spit out in standard. I have challenged you already. I did not come to talk. At least tell me your name. I am Gold Silverside, the rogue answered, and Derek could have sworn there was a hint of bravado in its voice, far more inflection than any robot he'd ever heard before. Whoever had programmed it had been good. I am the chosen of the old mother, the bane of walking stones. Tell your walking stone to leave so that we may decide who is the leader. Derek looked at Mandelbrot, who had taken yet another step closer at the rogue's words. Mandelbrot is compelled to protect me, Silverside. Tell him that you're not going to hurt me and I can send him back. It is no protection to you at all, Silverside answered, and her pale eyes glanced at Mandelbrot. I have already defeated it once. I will do it again, and you and I will settle this. No, I order you. Derek began, but it was already too late. The rogue moved faster than Derek thought possible. If Mandelbrot had not been there, Derek would have not had a chance. Derek felt a wind as Mandelbrot shot by him and met Silverside. The rogue collided with the onrushing Mandelbrot in a thunderous, resounding crash. There was a blur of violent motion, and Mandelbrot was suddenly down in the dirt, his legs thrashing helplessly from a severed cable held in the rogue's claws. The rogue itself had a long scratch in its flank, but otherwise seemed unharmed. Derek opened his mouth to shout, to protest, to scream. The Kempfets told him that the hunter-seekers were coming, that they would be too late, much too late. Silverside growled terribly, flung the cable away and was on him. He tried to raise his hands hopelessly. Claws raked at Derek's side as she grappled him and bore him down. "No!" he screamed. "You can't hurt me. I'm a human!" The rogue wailed. "I'm a human!" the god being Derek cried. The word set off a bewildering spark of reactions in Silverside's mind. Human! The resonance from the void-tongued word was stunning, and Silverside reeled from its effects. A human being is an intelligent life form. Intelligence human. "You are not human!" Silverside roared in denial, but she spoke in Hun tongue, the language of humans, and no answer came to her. Taking advantage of Silverside's confusion, the god being had rolled to its feet, and now she struck at it once more, intending to slash it open with her claws for its lie. She could not. It was as if the old mother controlled her hand and brought the claw back at the last instant so that she missed the clawed god being. She leapt at it instead, bearing it down again to roll it gasping in the dirt, then moving away a step so that it could stay on its back, submissive and beaten. It either did not know to submit or it would not. The god being staggered up once more, defiant. Silverside rushed at it again. The god being screeched with pain as her arms wrapped round its chest and squeezed. "Submit!" she whispered to it, and it was as if the old mother's will made the words a plea. She wanted this to end. She wanted the god being to go limp and end this farce. She was so much stronger than this thing of flesh. The god being was weak, weaker than the sickest of the kin, and yet it still struggled. "No!" it shouted back, its face gone red, its eyes wide and mouth gaping open. She could smell its breath, strangely sweet. "No. You must stop this. I order it. I am a human. You must obey me." The words staggered Silverside as if they were physical blows. Her grasp loosened and the god being sagged to the ground. Silverside stared at it without seeing it, all her attention on the confusion within her. "Human, you must obey." Silverside howled in beast talk. Somehow he wasn't dead. The rogue was howling again like a mad thing, and as Derek stared at it, its body was changing. Its snout was shortening, the ears moving lower on the body, and the canine jaws softening. Yes, the voice was humanoid, and the features were startlingly like Derek's own. "God being, I must know more," it said, and he could hear the confusion in its mind and its halting voice. Post-traumatic drift. Derek began to feel some hope. "I need information." There was someone or something behind the rogue, some shape. Mandelbrot had managed to lock his legs and rise, lumbering stiff-legged to them and compelled by the first law. Derek saw the blow coming a moment before it landed. "Mandelbrot, no!" he began to shout, but it was too late. Mandelbrot's closed fist fell on the rogue's neck. It went to its knees, a wolfish snarl coming from its human mouth, and now it was changing again, returning to wolf form. "No, Mandelbrot!" Derek ordered again. "I'm in no danger." The rogue was confused. It looked from Mandelbrot to Derek, to the forest, to the hunter-seekers moving rapidly toward them. It screeched in a sound of raw animal fury, its features changing rapidly and ceaselessly. Human wolf! Human wolf! Wolf! It stared at Derek. "Don't go," he began, but the rogue shook its head. Dropping to all fours, it began to run for the cover of the forest. "Come back!" Derek shouted. "I can teach you in the city!" But it was already gone. Chapter 27. Changeling. Below, the kin huddled on the ledge before Packhome. The pups yelped and played mock fights and nursed. The younglings, old enough to be in the hunting pack, strutted and told fanciful tales about how they'd helped Silverside kill walking stones. The adults simply nodded and occasionally looked to the summit of the hill where Silverside and Lifecrier had gone. It had been a strange fight, that of Silverside and the god being. They still did not know who had won. "You are unhappy with me," Silverside said in hunt tongue. Lifecrier shook his grizzled muzzle from side to side, used kin speech, telling Silverside that she needn't be so concerned. "No, Silverside, not unhappy with you. I'm sad that you're leaving." "I have not decided that. I have decided nothing." "I can smell the change in you." "Lifecrier has the nose of a dirt digger," Silverside said in hunt tongue, and Lifecrier bowed his head at the rebuke. He did not move away, though, standing his ground on the rise. They could see the hill of stars in the twilight, an aching brightness, and they both stared at it for long minutes. "I saw the old mother move in you," Lifecrier said. "My eyes are not as sharp as keen eyes, but you and the god being." "I know, I felt it too." "What will you do?" Silverside howled, and after a second, Lifecrier joined her. Their twin voices caused flock of birds to rise in the trees. "I am kin," Silverside said at last. "I lead the little kin here." "I know. No one would challenge you. You are the old mother's gift." "I am kin," Silverside repeated. "Yet—" She stopped and looked at Lifecrier. "I must do what is best for kin," she said. Lifecrier nodded. "That is all the old mother would ever ask," he told her. "Derek?" Mandelbrot whispered urgently and pointed. Campfire and city lights glinted on the robot's polished body. The red gleam of its eyes glanced at Derek, then back into the night darkness beyond the city. Derek rubbed sleep from his eyes. He struggled from under his thermal blanket and stood. The night was very quiet. Even the brilliantly lit city at his back seemed quiet, though he knew that thousands of robots were about their tasks there. The sweet odor of wood smoke filled the air. A gentle and cool night wind tossed the mane of smoke back toward the city. They'd been camped outside the city for the past 2 nights, waiting. Each night he'd expected the rogue to come to him. The city was broadcasting an endless invitation to Silverside. "Come into the city. You will not be harmed. The city's library is open to you. Come and learn." At last it looked like it would answer the invitation. The only question was, how? On the wooded crest of a hill, Derek saw the wolf creatures. Their dark, quick shapes moved like fleet shadows under the swaying rooftop of the trees. Both moons were up, despite the city's glare and the campfire. Derek could see them quite well, and Mandelbrot had moved near Derek, ready to protect him should the wolf creatures show any hostilities. "Hunter-seekers can be sent," Alpha reminded him. "No, not yet anyway." The shivering howls and barks of the wolf creatures' language drifted down toward them. Derek shuddered. In the weeks he'd been on this world, he still hadn't become used to that sound. Mandelbrot noticed and shuffled even closer. "Old racial memories die hard," he told the robot. "The rogue is with them," Mandelbrot said. "They're gathering around it, Master Derek. I think we should have the city call the hunter-seekers. I am not sufficient protection for you. Regardless of whether the rogue will harm you, the wolf creatures are certainly not bound by the laws." "I already ordered Alpha to hold them back, Mandelbrot. The wolves are no danger. Not yet. Be patient. You're the one who worked so hard to convince me they're intelligent, remember?" "Intelligence is not a synonym for not dangerous," Mandelbrot pointed out. "You as a human should be well aware of that." "Humph," Derek snorted. "We'll wait anyway." The pack had gathered at the edge of the trees closest to the city. Derek could see the rogue now, glinting in the moonlight between the pacing outriders of the wolf creatures. Now it stepped out into full moonlight, the old one at its side. The two licked each other, nuzzling and giving playful nips. Then the rogue began walking alone down the grassy slope toward Derek and Mandelbrot. Halfway down, the robot turned and looked back to the pack, which had gathered at the lip of the hill to watch the descent. The rogue lifted its muzzle to the wolves and gave a long, ululating lament. The wolves chorused back. To Derek they sounded wild and sad. The rogue began picking its way among the rocks toward Derek's camp once more. As it approached, the rogue's body began a slow metamorphosis. Step. The lupine muzzle shortened. Step. The tail began to shorten and retract into the body. Step. It raised up to walk on its hind legs. Step. And the legs themselves altered, the knees beginning to flex forward. When the robot stopped a few meters in front of them, it was recognizably humanoid in the firelight. It glanced at Mandelbrot, then at Derek. "Good being Derek, I have come to learn," it said. Except for the stilted formal grammar, its voice sounded very much like Derek's. "I have come so you may teach me of the void from which we both fell. I have come to learn what is human." Derek nodded. He pointed back to the city and the looming presence of the compass tower. "The answers are all in there," he said. "Follow me, I'll show you the way. Mandelbrot, if you'll take care of the fire, please. We wouldn't want the woods to burn." He said it mostly for the rogue's benefit, wanting it to understand that he was concerned about the well-being of the wolf creatures. It was difficult for Derek to give the rogue his back. He half expected it to leap on him again, biting and tearing. He listened intently for a suspicious sound behind him. Derek knew that Mandelbrot was already on edge and would respond instantly, but still, nothing happened. "Alpha, we're coming in. The rogue is with me." "We will have the apartment ready, Master Derek." Derek began walking, then glanced back when he didn't hear the robot following. It was staring back at the forest, and as it did, the malleable face went vaguely wolfish again. "It's your choice," Derek told it softly. "I won't force you to make that decision. Come with me or go back to them. I won't try to stop you." The robot howled to the wolves one last time, the bestial sound eerie and wrong to be coming from that human-shaped throat. Then the rogue turned from the darkness of the trees and the huddled pack. It followed Derek into the eternal light of the city. And thus ends the book. Alright, so, as typical, the next part won't be coming until next Saturday. So the week after. And I'll be going to the second book in this series, because obviously there's some two pretty obvious questions. What will happen when Ariel finally comes, and who is the mysterious figure in their apartment? Coming and asking questions. But after the second book in this series, do you guys want me to go back and do another 2 books of Lucky Star? Or do you want me to continue on and finish Robots and Aliens? That's the name of the series, Robots and Aliens. Alright. Thank you for listening, and have a good week until the first part of book 2 comes out. Bye!